It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this edition of the ECTV Eagle Community Television Forum. I'm Gary Shorman. The program is brought to you by Hayes Med. We have a special guest today. He's from Washington, D.C. It's Dr. Jamie Schwandt. And Jamie, I'll just call you Jamie that way because you actually went to Fort Hays State University.
Yes, I did.
Ended up in the military and then now in Washington, D.C. But you have a special mission. And let's talk first about your book. You have a book out, and it's called Succeeding as a Foster Child, a Roadmap to Overcoming Obstacles and Achieving Success. And we talk about this book. Did you ever think you would write a book?
You know, Gary, I wasn't sure when I was a student at Kansas State University. I was doing my research on foster care because I was a foster child myself. And as I was doing the research, I wanted to get my message out there, because when you do a doctoral dissertation, the dissertation kind of gets stuck out there. It's published at UMI ProQuest, what it's called. And you know, no one goes out there and reads that unless you're doing more research. And so I needed to get my message out there. So I had to write this book. But I really didn't think about writing it until last year, even though the research was 4 years in the making. So to answer your question, no, I never really thought I'd write a book, but just had some sort of feeling I needed to write it, and now I'm going to continue to write more books.
Well, what's interesting about this is that you did have I'll call it unique, but really when you're in the foster care program, you probably learned every lesson that was there. But you actually I had somebody, I was out here at the store the other day, and so I always ask people to give me suggestions. Your name came up because they said, this is a special individual. And you look at your history, your background. Growing up, you were in 20 different foster homes.
Well, yeah, 20 different homes.
Yes.
But not 20 different foster homes.
Okay.
I bounced back.
What's the difference? Tell me the difference there.
Well, I would bounce back and forth between the foster care system, between my foster parents, my parents, and my grandparents. So I was constantly bouncing back and forth. However, when I talk about foster care, I always talk about the vast potential that the foster care system has. It's an opportunity for success a child doesn't really have, and most people don't use foster care and opportunity in the same sentence. But the foster care system has vast potential for opportunity. And what I wish I would have did is I wish I would have just stayed in the foster family. But as a young child, being placed in foster care, bouncing back between parents, grandparents, and foster parents, I still stayed in the Northwest Kansas, Kensington area, which is a great area, by the way. I love that area. Yeah, bouncing back and forth between foster parents.
What can you tell us about that story, though? I mean, how did you get into the foster care program initially?
Well, I'll tell you a little story about myself before foster care, and then get into foster care. Before foster care, I actually brought in the foster care system with a younger brother of mine. We were in Phillipsburg at the time, and we bounced back and forth between Norton, Phillipsburg, Hayes, towns in Minnesota, so all over the place, and that's where the bouncing back and forth over 20 times comes in. My younger brother and I were raised in a life that was meant for failure. My mother and father were severely depressed, addicted to drugs and alcohol, and we witnessed them making poor decisions in life, witnessed horrible decisions. I'll just give you a couple scenarios with my mother and my father. My father actually committed suicide when I was a freshman in college. He attempted suicide once before I was born when he was a young man in the Navy. And the bullet actually tried to shoot himself in the head, and the bullet stuck in his head. He had the metal plate in his head. And so that kind of gave him some issues throughout life. He was on disability his whole life as well, so it didn't work, and that created scenarios. His mother actually committed suicide as well. So my father, he was well-intended. He wanted to be a good man, but just couldn't. The demons in his head would always win the battle. My mother, she was also severely depressed, addicted to drugs and alcohol. Give you a story. When we were living here in Hays, Kansas, I was in between probably 6 to 8 years old. I had a younger brother. He's about 2 years younger than I am. She would always put us in some horrible circumstances. One of those circumstances was she brought us to a trailer here in Hays, Kansas. And we walk in this trailer, very dirty trailer. I don't recognize hardly anyone in this trailer except for a couple of drug buddies. And people were doing all sorts of horrible stuff in this trailer, injecting themselves. And I remember just simply going to the bathroom. It was hard to walk around because there were needles on the ground. My mother actually tried to commit suicide multiple times. I think I was 8 or 9. One time she tried to drown herself in the bathtub, and I had to pull her out of the bathtub. So before foster care, we were put in some very horrible circumstances. And then when we were actually placed in foster care, I was in the 8th grade. I believe the year was 1995 in Phillipsburg, Kansas. And it was during Halloween. And my brother and I were out doing all sorts of deviant stuff. And my father was drunk, and we came home and got into fights. And next we know, the cops are over. And we knew that we didn't want to be there. So we knew my dad had a drug stash. So we told on my father, and next thing we know, we're in foster care. So that's kind of my story about getting into foster care.
And you know what? What's interesting is once you're there and going through that, how amazing it is what you have done since then, because you're an author, you do public speaking, you have the book that we just showed that talks about that. What about the foster care program allowed you to do that? Because the story you just told us really doesn't lead to a life of success like you've had of being in the military, serving our country, now living in Washington, D.C. with your family. So what changed that? Was it the foster care program that gives you the kind of the insight to be able to go and move on from that?
Well, that's a difficult question, and that's one that I was trying to research when I did my study at Kansas State and for my book. The foster care system has this stigma associated with it, and you really don't understand this stigma unless you're in the foster care. And this stigma, you're embarrassed about being a foster child, which you shouldn't be, because it's great potential, but you're just embarrassed. You feel lesser than everyone. You feel like people will think you're going to be a failure, and the statistics show that you're probably going to fail. So when I go out and I speak to foster children, and I have a message, and it's called Dream Big, Think Positive, and Take Action. And what I try to get foster children to do is understand there is a stigma out there, but learn from failure and also use all those negative circumstances, turn them into positive outcomes, turn defeat into stepping stone of opportunity, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. All the negative situations I went through, I now know that I have to learn from those and turn those into success. I mean, just think about it now. If I wouldn't have went through what I went through, all those horrible circumstances, my father committing suicide, being a foster child, living through those horrible circumstances, would I have completed a doctoral degree from Kansas State? Would I be speaking about empowering foster children? Would I have wrote a book? I've used all those negative situations and turned them into a platform to tell my story, to help and inspire people. You know, Frank Sinatra once said that the best revenge is massive success. So I turn all the negative circumstances into positive outcomes. But as a young foster child, this is the problem. You don't know how to do that. You need someone to show you how to do that. And that's where I think the foster system has vast potential for success, turning those negatives into positives and using all the outstanding benefits that they have in the foster care system.
Now, who should read your book? Because it looks like it's succeeding as a foster child, but you really tell the story almost that for coaching for foster parents as well.
No, I market my book towards foster children, obviously, foster parents, foster care administrators. However, there are relevant principles, maxims, whatever you want to call them, in the book that are appropriate to really anyone who's developing a young leader. However, when I market my book, I really want to get in the hands of foster children and even foster care parents, as you said, that could help train them to develop mentorship skills to help these foster children.
Now, you went into the military, and you ended up serving our country during the Iraqi War and ended up in Kuwait. What did that teach you? How much of that is in the book about the military influence on your life?
Well, you know, I try.
You're still in the military.
I am. I'm currently a captain in the Army and work out of Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, as a strategic planner. And you know, I've served some very, very cool roles in the military. My most fun and enjoyable, and probably the most frustrating, was a commander in the military. I love doing that. But when I speak to people about my military experience, I try to separate it from my world as an author, but it's hard to do. When I was deployed in 2002 and 2003, it seems like it's so long ago.
It does seem long ago, doesn't it?
It does. I tell people I had this aha moment, because before that, when I came out of foster care, I graduated in Kensington in the year 2000. I failed my first 2 years in college at Fort Hays State. Failed miserably. And 9/11 happened. Was mobilized out of the great unit here in Hays, Kansas, 388th Medlog Battalion. And during mobilizations, I had this, it's hard to explain, an aha moment, like, you know, this isn't that difficult, I can do it. and I came back, got back into school, and the rest is history. The military experience, when I talk to foster children, I always tell them I'm not a recruiter, but if you want a career path that can give you structure and the discipline that you need and the potential for success, the military is a great avenue for any young individual.
When you talk about, and you talk to these different kids about these different things that happened to you, somewhere along the line there had to be some people who made a difference in your life. Where do you go to find those people? And where do you tell kids where to go to find those people?
Well, in my book, one of my chapters discusses the importance of finding a positive mentor and creating a list of mentors, because mentors most of the time won't seek you out. You have to seek them out. But the foster care system should provide that list of mentors. I mean, I was lucky. I grew up in the greatest community in the world, in Northwest Kansas, in the Thunder Ridge community, Kensington, Phillipsburg, and this community. Let me first just talk about this community. This community right here has something special. I've deployed. I've just most recently participated in a strategic partnership in Germany, where I trained with the German military this past summer. I've lived all across the United States, but nothing compares to this. The strong foundation that you build here in Hays, Kansas, and Phillipsburg, Kansas, and Kensington, Kansas, Smith Center, Kansas, all around this area, you just don't find anywhere else. I mean, there is something special about this area. But I still stay in contact with my foster parents. I have some great foster parents in Northwest Kansas. One of those being Bob Beerley, Mr. Bob Beerley. I love to give him some credit, because him and his wife, who's now deceased, what an inspirational lady she was. Great people. But the foster parents in the area, the leaders, the coaches, it takes a community to raise somebody, and these communities do just that.
Well, you tell an interesting story. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and find out how they can find out more about you and more about the foster care system. Our guest is Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and he is our guest on the forum here on Eagle Community Television.
Youthful body, tight tummy, smooth facial lines. Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery is here to help you achieve your goals and give yourself the new look you've always wanted. Greystone offers sophisticated surgical and non-surgical cosmetic procedures. With services now available locally, there's no need to wait any longer. Contact Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery at Hays Medical Center today, or online at greystonecosmetic.haysmed.com.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our program here on Eagle Community Television. Our program is brought to you by Hays Med. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for a program like this show, it's a great program, send them to me at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. You can also find us on Facebook and just type in ECTV Forum. You'll find us there. Or, like in this case, find me in the grocery store and say, hey, I have a great guest for you on your program. You're doing that. Our guest is Jamie Schwandt. And Jamie, you have such a dynamic story to tell. What made it, did you want to share this with other kids? Because so many people go through life, they do have challenge, they may work through the challenge, and it's like, boom, we're on to something different.
Well, when
you're sharing back.
You have to give back. When I was a foster child, I wish someone would have provided me this tool, my book. That's why I wanted to do it. I wish someone would have gave me this roadmap to success and told me this is how you do it. I just wish I would have had that person there. You have to give back. If so many foster children, the statistics are going to show that they're going to fail. Just for example, when I was doing my research at Kansas State, I wanted to find out how a foster child could succeed. So I had to identify what I meant by success. So I chose education attainment. Let me give you a statistic. Only 2% of foster children will actually graduate from college. 2%. That's
not a very big number.
No, it's very low. So I found former foster children that graduated, or that graduated from high school and are currently in college in Kansas, and I interviewed them, and they, that was their chance to give back as well, to show that how you can succeed. So if you have if you have a roadmap, you have to share that, especially with foster children. So I'm sure you can tell I'm passionate about sharing my success with foster children to raise those statistics and give a child a better life, you know.
Well, you have a book that tells that story. You'll speak about it. But say we're out here, and we may be in the Dillon's location. Have you ever had an interview in the Dillon's location before? This is the first, huh?
This is definitely interesting.
This is it, yeah. If you were there and say there's a room full of foster kids there, you're doing your presentation, what is the one thing you want them to take away from your experience that will help them? If there's one thing that they leave this presentation that you have with them.
Well, just go and do it. You're never going to know exactly what to do. We're sitting here talking right now. You know, we didn't really have too big of a discussion beforehand. We just went and we did it. There's a saying called "fake it till you make it." Just go out and do it. Don't let anyone get in your way. Find what you want to do. Find what you're passionate in life, and get there. Just go out and do it. So.
And you know, you have a lot of kids that seem like they get troubled by the things they don't have instead of the opportunity going forward, and that's the other thing that you're looking at here by doing this, is helping other kids have that opportunity to go forward as well.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you were to, somebody out there says, boy, I want to talk to him, I want to find his book, I want to find out how he could come talk to our group, how do they find out about you?
Well, simply the easiest way is to go to my website, jamieschwandt.com. You can contact me through my website. You can purchase my book through my website. You can shoot me an email, which you guys will post, so I don't have to feel like an idiot and spell out my email.
We'll have it online right on the screen here. So,
but contact me. You can contact me through my website as well. And yes, I love to go out and speak to just about anyone who'll have me, but mainly, you know, foster children. I want to help and inspire them. You can purchase my book and contact me through my website.
Jamie Schwandt has been our guest here on the forum. Congratulations, it's been great to share the story, and I had an individual tell me what a great guest you would be. They're absolutely right. I love the way that you're giving back and really working with maybe kids that don't have the opportunity to make a difference in their world. So thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So thanks for having me on, and thank you to this great community.
Jamie Schwandt's our guest here on the forum, brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Youthful body, tight tummy, smooth facial lines. Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery is here to help you achieve your goals and give yourself the new look you've always wanted. Greystone offers sophisticated surgical and non-surgical cosmetic procedures. With services now available locally, there's no need to wait any longer. Contact Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery at Hayes Medical Center today or online at greystonecosmetic.hayesmed.com.